What's going on, everyone? So today I want to talk about Battlefield 5 and what I think it needs to be great. I'll be talking about some features, some overhauls they could make, what I expect from the game, and stuff like that. So I'll go ahead and start the video off with the things I think that they've already done right and talk about those. And the first thing is definitely free DLC throughout the lifespan of the game. The idea behind Tides of War and deciding to ditch the whole premium pass and the map packs thing and give us maps, operations, things like that for free is a really big addition to this game, especially since it's the first time we've seen this from Battlefield. At least, I'm not sure if they did it in the past, but it's the first time we've seen it since I've started playing in Battlefield 4, and I'm hoping that this kind of becomes an industry standard because it's to the point now where people don't like paying for DLC and map packs like this because all that does is divide the player base. And then when you do buy these maps, you can find matches for a little bit, but as soon as the next DLC comes out, you can't find any maps from that first DLC in any matches, which means that you paid for access to this DLC for a little bit and now you can't play it because there's not enough players. So seeing this change come not only is going to open up the game for pretty much everybody because everyone's going to have more maps and stuff post-launch to play in, but you don't have to worry about your DLC becoming useless the second that a new one comes out. And to expand on this, no premium pass that divides the player base is a really big move because, like I said, we'll get free DLC, but on top of that, you don't have to pay pretty much over $100 for full access to the game, which is a huge move because now you can just pay $60, you get all the maps and stuff right there in the game. They're coming for free, which means that you get more content and more bang out of your buck. Another thing that I really like so far is the idea of no more weapons shortcuts, which are the packs where you can buy like assault rifle packs and you get access to all the assault rifles in the category. This has happened from Battlefield 4 to 1, and I'm glad to see that it's not coming into this game because this actually encourages people to play the game, earn the weapons, level up, unlock things, which is good, especially because you don't have to pay over $100 just for the map packs and the game, but then also pay for shortcuts if you're impatient. So another thing that I really like so far is expanded characters, weapons, and vehicle customizations. And of course, they're probably going to monetize this, which means that you can pay for like some sort of cosmetics, probably like uniforms, face paints, all kinds of different things, camos for your weapons and your cars, or your vehicles, I should say. It's not just cars, which I'm completely fine with because cosmetics don't affect the progression or the gameplay, so I don't really mind that. I'll probably end up buying cosmetics in this game. I don't mind having to pay for things like that because it supports the game and the developers, but it also gives me something that I think is really cool, adds a little bit to the game for me, and doesn't completely destroy the gameplay for everyone else with like overpowered weapons and things like that. So the graphics in the game look pretty good. The game is very colorful and vibrant, and overall I think the textures all look really good. I've always thought Battlefield games look really good, especially since I did start kind of later. I started in Battlefield 4. That game looked good for the time. It still looks pretty good today, I would say. Battlefield Hardline looked okay, even though I didn't really like that game too much, and Battlefield 1 was a beautiful game, and this game is following that trend, so I'm really glad to see that too. They spend a lot of time on that, so that's good. I mean, graphics aren't what matters at the end of the day. It has to be the gameplay that matters first and foremost, because if not, then the gameplay is going to suck. If the graphics are great and the game sucks, you still don't want to play it. I mean, another change that I really like, or addition, is the fortifications and the ability to change the map and rebuild. This makes the gameplay better. It gives you unique situations that you wouldn't see in other Battlefield games. Also, I've noticed that a lot of the times on maps where there's like buildings that can be torn down and stuff, when tanks start shooting that, trying to kill infantry, the map eventually gets to a point where there's no cover, there's nowhere to like take and shelter multiple teammates, heal up, things like that. So fortifications, being able to build walls, sandbags, and overall rebuild buildings, that's a really good thing for the Battlefield franchise, especially with things like tanks coming through, bombs going off everywhere, things like that. You're gonna have issues with the map being basically destroyed. I feel like if Battlefield 1 had fortifications, the game would have been a lot better. Honestly, I think this is one of my most excitable features for this game because giving the uniqueness of this feature for the Battlefield series and being able to change the map how I want to play it, how I want things to look, how I want things to work, the flow of the map will change with things like this coming into the game, and it's definitely going to make it more fun. I also really like that they're bringing back operations from Battlefield 1 as grand operations, although they will not be available at launch. Obviously, we'll probably see these through the Tides of War, which means that we'll be getting all these things for free. They'll come later on as free DLCs for the game, things like that, updates, whatever you want to call them. These really do expand the narrative and fun of multiplayer because it gives you something different than the usual multiplayer modes, especially like Conquest in Battlefield, but it also has a chance, especially in a World War II game, to really give a narrative to the players and to really help spin the stories of that war to you. I'm just hoping that they don't find a way to mess these up, because I did enjoy these in Battlefield 1. I just don't think that World War I was as interesting as World War II. There's plenty more stories that could be told from World War II that I think would be much more enjoyable. Hopefully also these operations aren't based on the same things we've seen over and over again. One thing about Call of Duty World War II that I did enjoy was the war mode, which I think was heavily inspired from Battlefield 1, but I didn't enjoy how literally the first one that came out, the first mission, was D-Day. D-Day's really cool, it tells an awesome story, we all know about it, but when you play that over and over again and you see it in all these movies and things, eventually it just loses its touch. Anyways, maps. The Battlefield 1 maps were decent, but I don't think they were as good as they could have been. I think a lot of this will change in Battlefield 5, especially since Fortifications is coming into the game and you can rebuild cover. They need to bring out the full potential of the aircrafts, the vehicles, tanks, etc. That's one of the biggest parts of Battlefield that helps it stand out from games like Call of Duty, Halo, Titanfall, is that there's all these vehicles for you to play with. The map is almost like this big sandbox almost, where you can just go through, do whatever you want to do. Hey, you can play as a ground unit. You can heal your teammates as a medic. Hey, you can be a fighter pilot and swoop down and try and kill infantry or have dogfights in the skies. It's just such an expansive game because of how integrated vehicles are into it, so these need to be in, I guess, peak potential with these maps. They need to be the perfect size or else the matches will be too chaotic or they're going to be dull and boring. If they're way too small and you have all these vehicles all over the map just blowing things up, shredding people, smashing through walls, cannons going off, the gameplay is going to be too chaotic, especially when you factor in infantry and other things like that. But if the maps are way too big and it's hard to find others or it's hard to play the objective, it's just going to be boring. They got to make these maps the right size. Let's talk about weapons. They have to have a great variety of weaponry in this game. Battlefield 1 had a huge issue with this, but World War II has a plethora of weapons for the game to explore. Considering how many different guns there was behind how many different nations actually were in the war on both sides of the conflict, there is just a whole lot of different opportunities to make weapons to play with that we haven't seen in other multiplayer games, but are also very pertinent to the battle. Like I said, Battlefield 1 had a shortage of weapons at launch. The experimental weapons were not really enough to satisfy my craving for new content and weapons, and I feel like that really took away from that game. Health and damage off of weapons need to really be perfect. The weapons have to be balanced, they have to feel good to use, or the gameplay is going to suffer. If the time to kill is too short or too high, that's going to damage the game. And let's talk a little bit more about vehicles real quickly. I think Battlefield 5 has to really explore the potential of vehicles in the series for this game. They did very good with this, I think so, in Battlefield 1 because, I mean, vehicles were huge in that game. I feel like in Battlefield 4, the biggest vehicles that people really ever used were tanks, and of course it was kind of the same way in Battlefield 1, but the aircraft in that game were way different. Battlefield 4, you had a couple fighter jets, and they were cool to use, but not that many people were using them, so helicopters were pretty big in that game as well too. Overall, this game really needs to get vehicles right. These are something that they do better than the competition. Call of Duty vehicles, if they're in any of the games, are very almost out of the setting, it seems like, because in at least the best Call of Duty games, there wasn't really vehicles. They're pretty rare for Call of Duty, but they're bringing them in Blackout this year, so they need to really hammer down vehicles and make sure that they do it better than Call of Duty does in Battle Royale. The health and damage need to be balanced well, or it's going to cause the gameplay to suffer a lot. If everything is too weak and it's destroyed too easily, they're not going to be fun to use, but if they're too overpowered, it's going to destroy other elements of the game. Anyways, let's go ahead and talk about Battle Royale. I have a lot to talk about with this one. Battlefield's Battle Royale needs to differentiate itself, and it has a load of potential to do so. It's probably going to be the biggest World War II Battle Royale that we've seen. The Battlefield maps are already large, the studios are highly experienced with larger multiplayer, so they really have an opportunity to make this great, and the knowledge to do so. I also think that if this mode became free to play, it expands the potential to make this game a massive success. If you think about it, making this game, which already has a huge name in the gaming industry, everyone really knows Battlefield, okay? It's like the second biggest franchise for first-person shooters. Depending on if you want to consider it bigger than Halo, I think it's bigger than Halo at this point. Halo back in the day maybe had it over. But right now, I would say Battlefield is probably the second biggest first-person shooter on the market, so people know about it. But if you make it free to play, you directly compete with Fortnite much much easier. And also, you can convert people who play this free-to-play Battlefield Battle Royale, right, and get them converted over to playing Battlefield 5, make them buy the game, you know? I think Fortnite did this really well with their own Save the World mode by bringing Battle Royale, people come play that, and then they say, hey, maybe I want to play Save the World. If Battlefield 5 just makes free-to-play Battle Royale, that would be a huge kick right at Fortnite, and that would be really big to helping the game sell better, because it opens up the gameplay to more people. World War II is a great setting for a Battle Royale game, I feel like. They need to make the setting count, and I think they're going to do pretty well at this anyways, so the rewards for Battle Royale should be really nice. As a matter of fact, I think they should do something like the Battle Pass from Fortnite. It'll give players yet another reason to play the game, it can make them money, and also, it gives the players something to earn, and those rewards can be kind of tied into that Battle Pass, like in Fortnite. Hey, you complete these challenges, you get these skins. The gameplay, it has way too much similarity to Battlefield 1 thus far, I would say, especially the HUD. It looks nearly identical in a lot of ways. It looks like it plays almost just like Battlefield 1, but if it fails to be different in a better way from Battlefield 1, it's just not going to take off very well. They don't need to be like everyone else. They need to be like Battlefield. This game realistically should be taking a lot of inspiration from more fan-favorite Battlefields like Battlefield 3 and 4. And although those games are modern, and this one of course is in World War II, I think if the gameplay was more based around those instead of Battlefield 1, that it would already be much better. Innovate on your own, that's a big thing. They're doing that very well. They're bringing a lot of things that we've never seen in Battlefield before that are generally well received by the fans, which is a good thing. Anyways, campaign. It needs to be worth playing. The war stories, that's a great way to tell a great story, but I don't want the same story that I've seen a million times. Americans rushing the beaches on D-Day, getting gunned down, killing the Germans, liberating Europe. Yeehaw, go America, right? I don't want to see that again. Give us something different. We need to see multiple theaters of the war. Okinawa, I think Pearl Harbor would be a good opening mission because it would kind of open eyes as to why the Americans got into the war. North Africa, Stalingrad, the Blitz. Give variety in the stories. Give us different backgrounds. Give us different ways to play than other games have. The best part of Battlefield 1 was that it didn't stick with one story and one set of characters. Give us difference. It might be controversial, but give us an opportunity to play as the Axis in some of the stories. I mean, the loser of the war still has a story to tell, and it could really open our eyes to the atrocities and the realness of the war. Anyways, this is just a video of me compiling all my thoughts about Battlefield, what it needs to be great, as a Battlefield fan, what I'm expecting from the game, and what I'm hoping to see in it. If you did enjoy and agree, make sure to drop a like, subscribe if you're brand new. We're almost to 100,000 subscribers on the channel. Follow me on Twitter at @SubToOptimus for memes, thoughts, and updates on the channel. Hit the notifications button for always, join the Discord down below, and until my next video guys, this is Optimus, waiting on Battlefield 5, and signing out.